peace and love, you fantastic wonders of spiritual level being. Nathan here from Spiritual Level Being, and yes, you have a spiritual level being. And today we're going to be discussing Marcion, the man who wrote the first New Testament, the man who was declared a heretic and forced the proto-Orthodox Christian church to compile their Bible 200 years later. So, let's discuss Marcion. Marcion of Sinope, who was born in Sinope, modern-day Turkey, which was then a part of the Roman Empire, who died in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, in 160 AD. He was born in 85 AD, so he was an important Christian figure, theologian, possibly a bishop or son of a bishop, during the late 1st century. According to Ephanius, who was in the 4th century, who wrote about him 3 centuries after his death. According to this bishop, Marcion was a son of a bishop named Philologus of Sinope. Now, according to him, he also excommunicated his son. Now, according to Ephanius, Marcion was a seducer and seduced a virgin. However, we should take these accounts with a grain of salt because they're out to discredit him. Marcion's a classic case of someone being victimized in history. Now, he was called the Antichrist, he was called a heretic 200-300 years after his death. What did he do to piss off the church so much that they would even persecute and burn alive his followers, those who would call themselves Marcionites? Well, he wrote the first Christian Bible around 130 to 140 AD compared to 200-300 years later in the 4th century when the proto-Orthodox church would compile their canon and would complete it in the 6th century. He was a popular figure of ancient Christianity, a popular theologian, possibly a bishop or son of a bishop, or even both. Now, Marcion forced the proto-Orthodox church, which would later form into the Catholic and Orthodox church, to re-examine their holy text to acknowledge that there was mistranslations and there was corruption within the text. According to Christian sources, Marcion was also a mariner, a shipmaster, and was also quite wealthy. He travelled and would spread his teachings. It was said that when he joined the Roman church and travelled to Rome in 130 AD, he would give them a donation of 2 million sesterces, which was Roman currency, which is equivalent to $565.9 million today. And this shows the corruption and the power of the early Roman church, even during the late 1st and 2nd centuries. Now, this being said, it was said that after he was excommunicated that this donation was given back to him. This donation was most likely a bribe, a gift in order for him to be initiated into their church and to run his own church, to be given permission, and most likely made him a bishop. So, it was also likely that his father was a bishop, but still, this is a tribute. So this shows the power of the Roman church to demand a tribute so large as this. Now, even this story here could be a fabrication as well. And it could be just out to discredit him, to make him seem like a wealthy merchant. Even though the church politicians were quite rich themselves, and the reason why I said church politicians, because many of the church fathers were powerful politicians in their own right, quite corrupt. So what did Marcion believe? He rejected Yahweh, the Old Testament God of the Jews, who he viewed as a tribal war god and God of the Jews, who was into punishing and who was jealous and not perfect. He was not the God that Jesus spoke of, viewing the God that Jesus spoke of as the true God, as loving and perfect. He also came to the conclusion that Yahweh had a physical body as he walked through the Garden of Eden, and he also concluded that he must lack universal knowledge as he asked to where is Adam, as he couldn't find him, so Adam had to show himself. Now, Marcion believed that Yahweh created the lower planes in the material world, and thus this is why this world is imperfect. He believed that the true, highest unknown God was the father of Jesus and was the creator of the spiritual realm and the higher planes. So it's argued that Marcion was a Gnostic Christian or influenced by Gnostic Christianity. Now, because of this, Marcion would reject the Old Testament and would not include it in his New Testament canon, viewing it as corrupted by man and corrupted by the demiurge, who he referred to as Yahweh. Now, this is a Gnostic concept. Now, he believed that Jesus was so divine that he didn't have a material body, but rather that the body was an illusion and that he was a spirit that was the son of the true high God, that Jesus, the Christ, had always existed. Now, this was also carried on by other Christian groups and also some Gnostic groups. So because of this, Marcion would reject the virgin birth as he believed that Jesus was a spirit and thus no need for a fleshly birth, and he also rejected the crucifixion as you couldn't kill a spirit. So the body only appeared to be a body, so an illusion. So Jesus was so perfect, he was divine, he was beyond this fleshly corruption. Now, Marcion was also a huge Paul fanboy. a huge fan of Paul, so much so that he viewed Paul's teachings as the true alignment with Jesus, as he truly understood them, and the other disciples became under the influence of the demiurge and lacked the mysteries and understanding of the teachings of Jesus, thus lacking the gnosis of it. So when Marcion compiled his New Testament canon, it was said that he had the 10 epistles of Paul and the original Gospel of Luke, or an edited version that he removed the Jewish parts from it, or to make it less Jewish. So Marcion declared that Christianity was totally separate from Judaism, and its holy text completely contradicted that of the Old Testament text and its God. So Marcion was not a fan of this Jewish deity, though he didn't completely reject it as total nonsense or not having anything beneficial. He just rejected it as corrupt. So he didn't believe that this God was the true God that Jesus spoke of. Now, the followers of Marcion would be called the Marcionites. They in turn would be persecuted for centuries, and they would continue on despite their unpopularity view by the Roman Church. However, some scholars argue that these Marcionites were proto-Protestants, and they in turn would influence what would become Protestantism. Now, Marcion, who was also a big Paul fanboy, it's ironic because he would also influence the story of Paul, where the story of Paul writing letters. Marcion also did this, donating to Rome. Marcion also did this. Even the story of Simon Magus would also be influenced into the story of Paul. So all these sort of accounts would be mixed in order to remove the ancient esoteric teachings, the gnosis, from Christianity. So this was the goal of the Roman Church, who in turn would hijack Christianity. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Peace and love, everyone. Connect to one, mind and soul. Namaste.